G'day guys, Googs here and you're welcome to my drunk philosophy. Today I have discovered that the Labor Party of Australia has a new policy that it wants to implement if it becomes to government. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not voting for either party. I don't have a horse in the Liberal versus Labor race because, to be quite honest, to me, both parties have lost their shit, okay? I'm going to be voting independent, hoping that the people I vote for are going to put a wedge between the two parties and, in a sense, become the deciding factor, if you like, no matter who gets in, Labor or Liberal. But the Labor Party's new policy is this. They say that they want for the poorer people of the nation, or the lower middle class people, to foot 40% of the bill for the house, if you want to buy a house. 40%. Now, of course, this is a major addition to a policy that John Howard brought in the early 2000s, which was the first home buyers grant, which was the government would provide you with $21,000 at the time to help you get into a house. But that was a grant. That was just, they gave it to you. This, however, is different because the way this policy is worded at this point, is that the government will own 40% of your house, of your investment. They're not giving you 40% of the value and just saying, there's your grant. No. They will own 40% of that property. Now, there's some people who go, this is a great idea. It's going to get people into their own homes, but it's not going to be their house. It's not going to be their property. Why? Because 40% is a major stakeholding on the federal government, not your state government, your federal government's ownership of that property. That's a terrible idea. That's a terrible idea. And I'm going to give you a few examples of why, not in the immediate, but going forward, this is going to be a terrible idea. Let's think about this. A 40% stakeholding within your property means that they, although they don't have the controlling say, they can, and possibly would, have a decision on solar panels or how the property is presented or any future modifications to the property, all these sorts of things. The other concerning thing for myself personally is this. If they put in 40% to your house, so they own 40% stake, and on your half, you default as the minority stakeholder, still 40%. Once again, I want to remind people, that is a huge percentage of the overall control of the property. Does that mean that they then have the right to take that property, or to fine you, or to do something else as yet undefined? You see, this is the problem with this entire idea. And by the way, I don't think that this policy is something that the Labor Party can do, okay? You essentially will have a property where you only own 60% of that property. What happens with, for example, council rates? Does that mean you only have to pay 60% of the council rates because the government owned 40% of that council rate? Or do you have to pay the full amount? Because if you have to pay the full amount of the rate as only a 60% shareholder or stakeholder in that property, is that fair? It's not fair. What about if something goes wrong with the house, which can happen over time? Are the repairs on the structure of that property, which would be a part of the price, the original price, so that would be part of the 40%, are they going to pay for those repairs? If you do make major changes, 20 years down the track, you decide that you're going to repaint the place and take out a wall here, take out a wall. Are the government going to help you with 40% of those costs? What happens if you go bankrupt? Or, yeah, the bankrupt's a good one. Because then what? The government's just going to buy out the other 60%, throw your ass to the wind, and whatever. I don't know. See, there are too many what ifs in this policy. It will not help anybody in the long term. And the government having a 40% say in your property, the federal government, is a terrible idea. Terrible. So even if Labor Party do win, and they can, and they bring this policy in, I would suggest very, very, very strongly, don't just read the fine print, don't do it. Don't do it. Now, I understand why the Labor Party have done this, because at the moment, rental prices in Australia and prices in general for housing in Australia are insane. I understand why they're doing it. You have to think, though, as an individual person in this country, do you really want the government to own 40% of your property? You know, what happens in, once again, 20, 30 years' time, if the government decides that they're no longer willing to shoulder this burdensome cost and say, you have to buy us out and we want it in two payments, please. They can. They can just say, we're selling out on the 40%. What if they say we're going to sell out our 40% to private corporations or private companies? Then what are you going to do? And they can. They can. This is a very dangerous circumstance, a situation, a very badly thought out policy. And I strongly suggest that this shows and should show to everybody that the Labor Party really doesn't have a plan going forward. They really don't know what they're doing. They're just trying to get votes as quickly as they can. I can't see this working long term. I'm Nathan Gooks Fletcher. This is my drunk philosophy, and I'll see you guys down the road. Be good, be safe, don't be evil. I'll catch you on the next one. Hooroo.